Hi, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Next Gen Field Service Management webinar. Um, I'll, we'll get started straight away of just a few housekeeping notes. Everybody is going to be on mute during this webinar. In fact, I request you to look at the chat icon that you see on your screen. Make sure you send your questions in. We will answer all the questions at the end of the webinar, but please keep them coming in as we go through this webinar. And finally, very soon we'll have a recording of today's webinar sent to you. And also for those of you who have responded to the survey that we had sent out along with the invitations, if you've responded to that survey, you'll also get a copy of the survey report very soon. We are in the midst of compiling it from multiple responses we've had until now, and you'll soon get a survey report as well. So welcome and thank you very much for joining today. Today, here are your panelists. My name is Gopal. I'm from Ambit Software. I'm a senior vice president here. And I'm going to be joined by Jono Williamson. Jono is a senior solutions consultant of SugarCRM. He's steeped in his knowledge of customer service and field service, and he's going to be walking through most of the technological pieces of what we're going to see today. Now, the reason why we have had about 3 webinars already, and this is already the 4th in a series of webinars we have all focused on field service, is simply because we're seeing not only people wanting to hear more about what's happening in the area of field service, but we also realized from our interactions with a lot of people is that customers are becoming more and more acutely aware of the nature of experience that they have with their suppliers. Now, up until recently, I would say, much of the focus had been on marketing. How well does the website, how well does the website layout look? Is it easy to communicate with your customers and partners through whatever channels they use, etc. Then it was about how you would deliver a product or a service to them. But as we go along now, we are seeing more and more customers of ours, more and more enterprises in the manufacturing and utility and broadband and pharmaceutical manufacturing or discrete manufacturing. All these customers talking about how it's so much more important to retain your customers. And for retention, it's not only how you communicate to them through the website or how you sell and deliver a product, but it's also how you service them, how you manage the experience through the entire life cycle of your customer. That's really important. And that's the reason why we have a lot of interest in this particular topic lately. Now, Industry 1.0 has transformed over the many years to Industry 4.0, and which again is probably old news already. There are talks of Industry 5.0 also, and I'm sure some of you are contributing to some of the principles that are being identified and agreed upon in what constitutes Industry 5.0. But along the way, what we've also seen is while technology has been speeding ahead, the adoption of technology in manufacturing has not been as large scale as many other industries. And I'll talk about that a little bit more very soon now. But for those amongst you who've already got to Industry 3.0, where you have sensors in equipment in places where you have data coming in from your sensors, how best you can use that data to be able to service your customers. I'm sure this is a question you've asked yourself, probably even answered or got it answered already. But in today's webinar, you'll also see ideas on how you can use information that you get from your equipment, not only the people, but also your machinery sending out signals to deliver better service. And of course, if you're at Industry 4.0, then you're not only looking at data coming in, but you're also looking at the intelligence that comes out of that data to look at what conditions uh, your equipments are operating at, and also what are the predictive outcomes in terms of performance and life of your assets that are looking at. Now, manufacturers are faced with many challenges. Price is always a pressure, but then along with that, there's emerging markets. Now, in the new economy, with what's been happening over the last 6 months, especially, emerging markets is going to probably reshape itself once again, and we don't know how that's going to look. But that threat of competition from different quarters always remains. There's shrinkage in the technology cycle. So products get out of date very soon, or product versions are demanded much quicker than they used to be before. There are new supply chain models, regulation and environment. Regulation is always keeping up um, with everything that technology provides and making sure that there's no vulnerability that we create because of the technology that we provide. And then there's demands on operational efficiencies, be it a small manufacturing unit or a large one. The operational efficiencies are what completely drive your bottom line, your margins. And it's so important to be able to manage that, be it from cost of inventory, cost of manufacture, but also now we'll talk about how cost of service is also going to impact your operational efficiencies. And of course, globalization and shift in core competencies is also a challenge that many customers like yourselves are faced with today. Now, I did talk about this very briefly. Now this is a study that was done by Deloitte a few years ago. And what's staring in our face here is that while technology has been around and being adopted by different verticals, manufacturing has been a bit of a laggard. Now, one can say, of course, that the demand for the technology to be adopted was not that high. And to some extent, even the supply of technology in the manufacturing space was not that high. It definitely got outpaced by technology advances in telecommunications, for example, or automotive. And there are maybe 50, 60, 100, 200 chips inside one automobile today. So definitely there's a lot of technology investment that's happened in many other verticals. Manufacturing has been a laggard, but it's picking up very quickly. We've seen this happening in the last couple of years, that manufacturing customers are beginning to invest more heavily in technology, in digital specifically. And of course, the more advanced you are digitally, now I will not go into the details of what digital might be, but then it equips you to be able to disrupt your industry, for example, coming up with new ways to bring your product to market, but sometimes even more transformatively, even changing your business models, or things like servitization, for example. Those are definitely doable when you have a digital outlook in your roadmap. Being able to create new value for your customers, again, digital plays a big role when compared to customers, or sorry, enterprises that have not adopted digital to that extent. And then finally, being able to outsource your repetitive non-core tasks. Again, when you have a digital framework, those big front runners in the adoption of digital technologies find it easier to manage it compared to others who have not. Now, the traits of leaders in manufacturing who've adopted digital. Now, these are the 4 things that Deloitte came up with in their analysis. Those that are leading are ones that have a long-term digital strategy. They have a confidence in their leadership and workforce talent, and they use the power of the ecosystem. There's upstream and downstream integration to an extent that there's a continuum of people, resources, and data coming through the entire life cycle of a product, coming from the time it's been designed to the time it's delivered and serviced, and even retired after it's delivered a lifetime of its service. But most importantly, also the one that we'll cover today is how is customer centricity and innovation that's powered by technology. These are some of the traits that digital leaders in manufacturing are demonstrating today. Now, on the left, you will see how how manufacturing enterprises have been functioning with their data, with the way they managed their businesses. Moving from transactional to recurring. Now you want to go from treating every deal as a unique deal and or a unique customer, to creating recurrence in how you institutionalize and work with multiple customers, moving from a siloed way of looking at your entire customer life cycle to making it very seamless, and so on. So these are some of the traits that we're seeing in how manufacturing enterprises have been and to what they're getting to. And amongst them, most important, I would say, is service used to be seen as cost. Service to an extent also is a revenue generator, of course. When you have post-warranty services or long-term service contracts, of course, service is also revenue. It's not just cost. But then when you turn that service into an experience that delights your customer, that service also becomes marketing. And today we'll see how the technology that we have created along with Sugar is going to make that service so seamless and so easy and convenient for the customer to consume that the customers become your promoters. The customers tend to become more loyal with you. The customers tend to spend a longer life cycle with you. And then, of course, data centricity moving to relationship centricity. Now, these are some of the examples I'll quickly walk you through. Some of the companies that Sugar has already been working with, creating digital transformation programs for them that allows them to transform as an organization. So Caterpillar, Van der Lande, and Audi. Caterpillar and Audi, definitely these are logos that you would recognize. And some of the CRM centric, but based mostly around service, for example, and how these companies have transformed from being product sellers, asset sellers, to becoming enterprises that sell the usage of an asset. And servitization is transforming the manufacturing industry all around the world. And it's definitely being led by the US, North America, and Europe. But the rest of the world is also catching up with that. Another organization where Sugar, as an example here, where Sugar has helped the field service technicians of an organization become more efficient in how they deliver their services, is a company called Rheem. It's a large group based out of North America. A lot of their products are in the plumbing, pumps, and heating equipment, those kinds of things. These are just examples of some of the customers that have used the technology that we're going to talk about today. The way industries have managed their break-fix, their maintenance has evolved over time. There are few customers of ours who have adopted Industry 4.0. They have IIoT technology in place, based on which they're able to even deliver predictive maintenance to customers. But and of course, when you're delivering predictive maintenance, the cost to deliver that service, as well as the cost of downtime to your customers, is so much less. But still, a majority of our customers are still in the earlier stages of the types of maintenance that they provide. And this also is reflected in the survey that we've been receiving data from all around the world, that break fix and preventive is by far the most regularly modes of maintenance that the enterprises are providing. Some are, of course, adopting condition-based, and fewer number of them are also adopting predictive means to maintain. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that the platform we have to manage field service can actually work with you no matter what stage of adoption of this entire continuum you are at. In fact, for the IIoT state, for example, we can use sensor information through historians. There are, of course, rules engines already created by some of your industrial IoT platforms you might be using, if you already have one. And when you aggregate that data can actually be used to create tickets or to create requests for additional parts or additional labor services. And the entire chain of events from the time that a sensor creates a signal to the time that an opportunity is created or a service technician is made aware through the CRM portal is a digital chain, and that can be as immediate as you can make it. Now, I'll talk about the platform itself and just a brief introduction. Now, SugarCRM, Jono will talk about that more if he has the time for it, but SugarCRM mainly focuses on all three pillars of customer experience, right from marketing. That's usually the first stage where you initiate conversation, you communicate, and you relate to your prospects and future repeat buyers, through to sales, where you manage their life cycle from the time they actually show keen interest in buying to the time they've actually bought something from you. And then beyond that is where SugarServe steps in. This is where this technology manages the life cycle all the way from the time something is delivered on site to the time that product is retired. Now the great thing about Sugar is that the entire continuum of market, sales, and service is on a common platform, and that allows you to have a 360-degree view of the customer, no matter where they are in the life cycle of marketing, sales, or service with you. The product that we will talk about, the field service management product, has been created on SugarServe, which has, of course, the three main drivers of its existence: improvement of efficiency, reduction of cost, and building trusting relationships. I'll dive deeper into what you will see in more detail very soon now. This is like a functional snapshot of all the things that you will need inside your field service management tool. Something which is comprehensive, that includes all of these functions in one single interface. Now, is something that's going to be probably the most effective tool that you could work with. Of course, in the back end, you might be interfacing with the ERP system, for example, to look at some parts. You might be looking at HRMS systems to be looking at skills of people, to look at attendance of people, etc. And of course, a knowledge base, you can create all of this. So there are multiple systems that might sit in a backend, but all these functions are now made available through one interface. That's the field service management add-on that we've created. Now, to quickly walk through 360-degree view of a customer, looking at what contracts they have signed up with you for, what are the assets that they have that you've supplied to them, managing work orders and service requests that you might receive from your customers, managing quotes, orders, and invoices when there is a potential to turn your service request to a revenue generating request, managing your service center. Now, this could be your own service centers around the world, around the country, around the region, but it could also be your subcontractors. If you use third parties to deliver services, you can manage all of their SLAs, their skills, their timelines, what times of the day they are available at, etc. You can manage all of that through this. Notifications and SLA management, ensuring that there is no time lost between when a customer cites a problem, communicates that to you, to the time that a technician can be dispatched and arrive at a site. So managing the entire life cycle through workflow management, creating SLA notifications, that's part of this product too. A knowledge base for the technicians. Now, um, uh, quite often we see in surveys that I would say about 50% of the time, the technicians are specialized in a particular type of product or a particular category of products. Especially when the enterprise has a multi-product strategy, when you have different types of products, and your service technicians may not be trained across all of them, you might occasionally land up having to dispatch a technician or an engineer who may not be the best suited for the job. But then the knowledge base that you can create yourself inside of the CRM platform is available to create inside this product. Resource scheduling, probably one of the most important ones a lot of customers talk about, is being able to make sure that you can pick the right person who's available at the nearest location, has the right skills. And then this site route planning, making sure that the technician knows where they want to get to, how quickly they can get there, and also know which is the route that they're going to take on any particular date, for example. Trunk management, making sure what tools and what parts they have in the trunk is suitable for the job that they have on hand. So all of these are managed inside of the field service management product. Site visit report, being able to get on a customer site, digitally create your service report, get signatures, and dispatch a PDF copy later. That's managed within this. Timesheet management, if your technicians are paid, or rather your customer pays you for the number of hours that your technician spends on site, you can manage that through the timesheet management functionality. Customer portal that allows your customers to log in cases, even go back and look at what the status of the case might be. They can even refer to a knowledge base through the customer portal where they can even take self-help. Now, you might want to deflect as much as you can to self-help, especially when you know that there is dispatching a technician for this would be a waste of resource, a waste of time, and you want your customers to try and fix something themselves. The customer portal functionality is a great add-on to consider. Subcontractor management, onboarding a subcontractor, taking them through the entire life cycle of onboarding is managed through this interface. And finally, something that's in the works, it's almost there, we'll release this very soon, is integrated payments. Once that is live, we can compress the entire life cycle from the time a ticket was received by you to the time that you could invoice the customer. And quite often, site visit reports, for example, or resource scheduling, getting the right person to the right place at the right time. These are bottlenecks that cause a delay between creation of a ticket to creation to sending an invoice, and that can be collapsed dramatically with this tool. This, I will not spend too much time on this, but suffice to say that there are many record types and functionalities and workflows that reside inside of this product. And this is how the records interface with each other. Many of these actually would probably sit in the ERP system, in the accounting systems, but it's all pulled together in one place, which then means that when you have a case that comes in, you can break that down to operations, tasks, and create service reports. You can consume components that you can then bill based on what, and send the bill to the right address. If a customer has signed up to a service account, you can create and store that inside the CRM. Create service contracts, and you can tag all the customer's assets so that you can always go back and look what assets the customer has. And when a service order is created, billing information is received from this block on the left-hand side. revenues and costs, depending upon what resources you've deployed, what inventory you've consumed on site. The revenues and costs are managed, and then the time and resource preferences. So you can manage your resource requirements, look at what job will take how much time, what skills are required, and also be able to plan it through a calendar view. All of these you will see in more detail very soon now. All of this is the architecture of how everything sits together inside of this add-on. I'm going to skim through this very quickly. This is how the entire workflow looks, and this is what Jono will walk through end to end. What happens when you receive a case to the time that an invoice is sent out? When a case is received, you can auto classify that into whether it's something that requires a sales team attention because there is a new product or a new service to sell, or is it a service request goes through a service route? Whatever the case, you'll notify the customer. And sometimes your customer will have signed up to some kind of a maintenance contract, a service contract, and then they might raise a service order in advance, let's say a quarterly service order for the next 3 years. So these ad hoc cases that come in, and also service orders that are created for either installation, maintenance, etc. All of that takes the service route. Now you can also have IIoT devices that send predictive maintenance alerts. That also goes into the service route. Now, when a service ticket or a service order is received by the dispatcher creates a task, allocates a technician. Now, the technician allocation is done based upon what the utilization of the team is, what their skills are, and then the technician receives a notification. They can check what location this asset is at, what history we have with that particular asset or that customer, see what task is on hand, and then make sure the trunk has the right tools and spare parts, look at the knowledge base that they require, and then head to a site visit, create a site visit report on site, and then also make sure that any inventory consumed is notified. And if there's a timesheet based billing involved here, the timesheet is also completed while on site or between sites. And then based on the information from the site visit report, the timesheet and the inventory consumed, you can then create an invoice. This is the entire workflow that Jono is now going to talk to you about. So you have the dispatcher here who manages allocation of tasks, the technician here, and of course, right at the end is the customer whose experience of the entire service is most important. Jono.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm very excited to show you how Ambit have extended Sugar and used it for field dispatch and field service. So let me just share my screen here, and if we can bring up my PowerPoint really quickly. Okay, so I'm going to show you two elements of it. I'm going to show you how a dispatcher would interact with field service, and then also how a field technician might do that. So let's start with the dispatcher here. So when a dispatcher goes in, they can actually see a complete 360-degree view of the customer. They can see not just the cases, but they can see things like the assets, any contracts that they have, et cetera, associated with their account. And then when you get into, like, as Gopal was talking about, the service order management, you can see the contextual order data here, and any of the service information, again, linked to assets, linked to parts, and even linked to any service reports that have been done previously to that particular customer's asset. So that's all visible here inside of Sugar. And then what you could also able to do is manage people's schedules. So you can view people's schedules on a calendar. You can view individual people's schedules, as well as being able to view the entire team's schedule there. And this integrates with Outlook 365 using Sugar's Sugar Connect technology. And then, of course, the main part is to look at individual technicians and being able to assign people to service calls or service orders, and being able to book particular times of day, and being able to manage or refine down based on people's availability and people's skills as well. So you can see here what we're looking at is a screen of individual technicians, and being able to look at what their schedule is in a Gantt chart view, but also being able to drag and drop and move things around. So if you need to move like a technician's call to earlier in the day or later in the day, you can move that directly from here. So it's fully interactive inside of Sugar. And then what's really important as well is being able to see where people are in that particular day. So if there's an emergency call out or something like that, what you're able to do is see where people are on a map, and also see when they're available, and even being able to predict, or not predict, but tell you how far people are away from being able to service something. So it'll take into account your travel time, or a technician's travel time, and be able to tell you, okay, this person's on a job right now, and so this job's going to take them an hour, but on top of that there's an hour and a half of travel time, so it's going to call that out and let you know that that person can be there in 2.5 hours to work on something. So not just being able to see things in a Gantt view, but also being able to see things on a map, and also see people's route for that day, like where they're going to be, etc. So talking about those emergency calls, they start with a case, but within that case, you can manage those emergency calls, schedule people, and then also be able to see, what that history is within that case, what has happened within that. Also within field service, there's a lot of predictive maintenance that happens, right? So people need to go out. So again, that may start with a case, but it pulls data from other modules within Sugar that have been extended or built by Ambit. So such as the asset data. So you can pull in the asset, you can pull in things such as, in this case, we're showing pulling in the serial number, the make and model of things as well. And things like previous inspection reports or current inspection reports, if they're within a particular SLA information, and then if there are if there's opportunities there as well. So kind of turning your field service into a little bit of a profit center as opposed to just a cost center for things as well. So then once all that's done, it goes over to the technician, right? And the technician needs to be able to interact, and this is on a mobile device. So there's some key points here. So technicians want to be able to use the Sugar app that has been extended by Ambit to be able to receive task alerts and plan their route as well as to where they need to go. So you can see here a couple of screenshots of where someone's interacting and being able to go directly into the route planning aspect of it. And then being able to see full things such as the customer contact information. So just one page overview of like, who do I contact? Where is it? Any information. Again, this is all completely configurable by the customer as to what information they need to see, their technician needs to see when they're about to go either leave to go see a customer or when they're on site to see a customer. So this gives you that full 360-degree view of that customer, previous service calls, what's under warranty, what's not under warranty, what contracts are there, what assets do they have, etc. And then as Gopal was talking about earlier, is being able to see the trunk inventory, like what do they have available to them, and being able to mark things when they use things, so that that utilizes their trunk inventory, but also allowing replenishing systems to update that trunk inventory as well. And that can be taken into account based on dispatch. So if you've got a particular job that needs to be done, like an emergency break fix, being able to find people that have the right inventory to do that as well. So it's not just being visible to the technician, but being visible to the dispatcher as well. And then last couple of things to run through with you is like being able to do a site visit report. So this is really important. And this is very configurable, and which is important to customers because they don't want to kind of knife and fork their way into some standard site report. They need to have their site report based on the products and services that they provide. So we're able to configure the site service reports to be how your company would want to run these things, to take pictures, etc., but also to have people able to sign off on things. So it can capture signatures, and they can just tap into something and then sign off that they've done that. So, and finally, what you're able to do once that site report is completed, it can be emailed, or the service report can be emailed to a customer directly from the system. So again, minimizing that manual interaction that people have to do, today, where they have to manually kind of scan paper documents and email it out to people. This is all done on a mobile device and then automatically emailed to people using Sugar's workflow tool. So that was the last thing I wanted to show you. There is a lot we could show you. I just want to give you the highlights today and then allow you to see what it's capable of. And if anyone wants to see that in more detail, you're more than welcome to contact us. And when we'd love to show you kind of the detail behind what I've shown you today. So thanks for listening. And I think we're in the Q&A section now.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jono. So I will remind everybody to send in your questions. We have a couple of questions here, which I will read out now, and please keep them coming in. The first question I have here, Jono, is what is the best way to get more paid cases through? I think this is as opposed to not having enough cases that you get revenue out of, or not have only to deal with warranty cases and not with anything else.
Yeah, I think the key, I mean, and you probably want to jump in on this as well, Gopal. I would say that the key is to make it easy to interact with your customers, right? I mean, I know from just my personal life, if it's hard for me to deal with a company, I just give up and I'll just deal with something unless it's an emergency or I have to do something. But so I kind of put those things off. But I find that if you have an easy way to interact with your customers and you make their life easier, then people are more likely to interact with you as a company. And the technology can really help with that by being able to make it easier for people to communicate with you and to schedule things, to be able to schedule things like, if I'm working with a company and they're scheduling and they're like, yeah, we'll come out on Tuesday next week. I'm busy. I don't have time to dedicate my whole day to waiting around for a technician to show up. If they're able to schedule something within a window for me, then that makes my life a lot easier and more likely I'm going to deal with someone. I don't know, Gopal, if you want to.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, thank you, John. I think on those same lines, when you talk about experience, a lot of people around the world, they are on their mobile phones mostly, or sometimes on their tablets. And if a plant manager, for example, in a customer's organization, is at his desk or is around on the shop floor somewhere and notices something's not working, if they can just pick up the phone, their smartphone, log into a portal and immediately register a case saying that, oh, well, I have this lathe machine here and I can see that the spindle is wobbly, or here I have a transformer and the temperature seems to be completely out of whack. And that case can be registered straight away, and which then means that instead of trying to fix themselves, they write to you. And if you think that a technician can go attend to it, they can actually, this can actually become a revenue generating um, uh, uh, practice for you. Okay, I have another question here. This one reads, rather than having their own field serv field service workforce, some companies prefer to contract third-party independent partners. In other words, cases are assigned at the partner rather than the field engineer level. How this could be managed in SugarServe? Shall I take that, or will you, John?
Yeah, go for it. I think you should grab that
Okay,
one.
I'll take that one. Okay, yeah. So uh, we didn't spend too much time talking about how you can manage your subcontractors and how you can actually onboard each of your subcontractors. When I say subcontractor, I don't mean an individual, but a subcontracting agency, a company, a local company that has the skills, and they may have just, let's say, 4 vans and 5 people in that organization. They can be your service partner for those 20 square miles. You can register each one of these as the individual service centers, and you can have the entire catalog of service centers as part of your inside of the CRM. And then using the geolocation, and this pops up immediately. If you notice that the location of the subcontracting company is a particular address, and if a case comes up in a location, and you can configure that already, you can say, I want to see all subcontracting agencies that are within, let's say, 50 miles of this particular case, or 100 miles from this case. And instead of showing individuals as we showed right now, we can actually show all the possible subcontracting companies that are within that address. And then you can send off that ticket to that particular customer, to that particular partner. I hope I've answered that. Is there, if it still remains unanswered, please, I will share my email address and on the chat right here, and please do get in touch with me once again. I have one more question here. This one is, we have slightly different processes already in place. Will you be able to customize the tool to accommodate those? I'll answer that very quickly. The answer is yes. What's amazing about SugarCRM as a platform is it is so not rigid that you as a user can in fact do most things that another platform actually requires a developer to take care of. So you can actually log in, move your fields around, change your workflows, create new SLAs, add new contract data inside there, manage your subcontractors. You can do almost anything you want and make it aligned to your specific processes. Anything that's done is actually almost always configuration. There could be elements of customization. For example, if there is a particular ERP that we have not previously built a connector for, and we need to create a connector to make sure that we can synchronize your parts data from your warehouses, for example. Those kinds of customizations we can always take care of at the time of implementation. But by and large, you think of a process, and almost always it can be configured out of the tool that it is. We have one last one here. I'll pass this to you, Jono, if you can answer this one. Can SugarServe be integrated with our inventory management stroke ERP software?
Yeah, so before I answer that question, I actually watched the vice presidential debate last night, and in the debate, they always kind of decided what they wanted to talk about. So I'm going to do that before I answer the question, just so just before I do that, what I found really interesting or really exciting when I joined Sugar, and you just kind of talked about it there, Gopal, is the ability to adapt the software to your business as opposed to adapting your business to the software. And I think that's one of the most exciting things that I find about Sugar, is that, so if you do have a unique way you go into you approach your customer relationships, that we adapt to you as opposed to you having to adapt to them. And I find that very exciting about Sugar, because I'm a very big customer service guy. But to go back to that question around adapting into, integrating into other inventory management, absolutely we can do that. It's we do that all the time. And again, it kind of goes back to what I was just talking about, is adapting to how you want to run your business. While, you know, Ambit have built this great inventory management application with trunk inventory management. If you have something that you already use, then we can adapt to that as well, without you having to go and say, no, we need to like get rid of something we're using and then go and adapt to how some software company thinks you should be running your business. It's more like we're going to adapt to you. So those two things are related. So yeah, absolutely. If you're using some inventory management application, the answer is yes, we can integrate into that.
Super. Thank you, Jono. We do not have another question at the moment. I'll wait for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. No, we don't have any more questions. So I think in that case, we'll close this webinar now. I'm absolutely thank every one of you who've participated today, and also those of you who have filled in the surveys. We will be back in touch with you. I'm going to type in my email address in the chat window. If there are any more questions that you'd like to send our way, or you want to talk to us about your specific situation, how you'd like a field service management platform to work for you, definitely please drop me a line, and I'll be only too glad to have that conversation with you. So thank you, Jono, and thank you everybody for being on this call. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day wherever you are. Bye.
Bye-bye.